بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله وعلى أهل بيتك المظلومين. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة. ما خاب من تمسك بكم، أمن من لجأ إليكم. يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا النبي المؤيد والرسول المسدد والمصطفى الأمجد والمحمود الأحمد حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، سفن النجاة الأعلام، من ركب سفينتهم نجا ومن تخلف عنها هلك وغرق. ثم أما بعد. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As you are quite aware from yesterday, that we've reached point number 5 of 9 points in regard to the discussion at hand. And if you remember yesterday, I mentioned point number 5, but I did not elaborate on it. And today, inshallah, with your patience, we'll discuss the further few points that we have as we are fast approaching the 10th of Al-Muharram. We are already on the 8th night, and I hope I can cover the topic at hand. The 5th point I was trying to discuss yesterday was establishing what we call the underlying framework for action. What does that mean? We need to initiate discussions with our youth. We need to probe into their own minds. What is going in that mind? If we don't allow them that space where they can come out and say how they feel, what they want, we can never reach them. We can never access what is going on with their minds. What challenges are they facing? Because sometimes we look at the youth from our own perspectives. We think we know it all. No, we don't know it all, right? We need to access them in order for them to tell us what are the things that are bothering them. And if there is nothing bothering them, which is good, then what are the things they like to discuss? What are the things they like to probe into? What are the things that appeal to them? It doesn't mean that if we allow that space for our youth to talk and discuss, that means we are surrendering every authority to them, in the sense that they are not quite aware to take the responsibility on board. Says who? The question says who? That these youth or these youngsters or these teenagers or these young adults are not ready. So they are ready to go abroad at the age of 18 to study, but they're not ready to discuss a matter of concern to them. That's a paradox, right? That's a paradox. It's not impossible. It's not impossible that we can trust them for 5 years alone abroad to study, and then when it comes to matters of their faith and religion, their identity, we dictate the kind of programs that we have to give them. And then you find out at the end of the day that they are not coming, they are not responding. Why? Because simply, they're not interested in your programs. Your programs means nothing to them because they don't satisfy the quest for what they want to learn about and what interests them the most. Of course, we have to navigate between the things that they want. Not everything can be discussed and not everything can be given. I should say. Yes, everything can be discussed, but not everything at the end of the day can be given. We need to come to a common term with one another in order that we can all be on the same page. We can all be on the same page. So we need to initiate discussion and let them identify priorities, and set their own pilot projects. What does that mean? What is a pilot project? You're all educated. They tell you this to do a pilot project when you go study, right? In universities and all this, yeah? It's a minor kind of study where you sit with a group of 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 or 8, or whatever the case may be, and you sit on a task until you are able to dissect it, probe into it, and then try and work it out, right? So this task could be anything. This task could be anything within the Muslim community as well. Because I've always said this, and inshallah, one day before I die, I will see this happening in our communities, at least outside the Majalis of the 10 days. Because I know the Majalis of the 10 days are quite, conservative, and people have this kind of attachment to these Majalis because they're beautiful. They bring the community together, right? In a very nice atmosphere, healthy atmosphere, an atmosphere of consolidation, an atmosphere of brotherhood, sisterhood, an atmosphere where we all gather together as a community in order to discuss our problems. But after the 10th night of Muharram, what do we do from the 10th of 1446 to the 10th 1447? What are we going to do? We need to set up workshops in between where we can bring these youngsters and discuss issues of concern to them. For example, do we have statistics about rising divorce rates in our community or not? Do we? We do, right? What are we doing about it? What are we doing about it? Nothing, right? Nothing whatsoever. Are we providing programs, for example, for husband and wives or for brides and grooms who are embarking on the question of marriage, right? That they can actually go and access a program in one of the Husayniyat or in one of the mosques, for example, a 2 weeks program about marriage. Somebody's looking at me laughing, say, what are you talking about, Sheikh? Which planet do you come from? Right? Because we don't, right? We don't. Yet, the effect of such programs that it can actually decrease the number of divorces in our communities. Because then our young women and men, before they go into marriage, they know what they are going into, what expectations they're going into marriage. This is one thing. The other thing, workshop on gender equality. Do we have any workshops on this? Forget it, zero. We don't even want to talk about the subject, right? As if it doesn't affect us. It does. Do we have problems with other, addictions that we have in our community? Yes, we do. We do. We ran a program about an addiction in Australia. I don't want to take the name from the member, okay? Out of respect to the member, okay? But it is such a prevalent problem that is happening among the youth today, and it has been happening in the community, right? And the reason why it's been happening is because it's not discussed between parents and children, right? So they access these websites, all right? They vent their whatever energy that they have, sexual energy that they have. I think now you get the drift, what I'm talking about, right? And then they feel guilty about the act they've done until a time where they get to a stage that they become guilt-free. Do you know that? They think what they're doing is right. There's nothing wrong with it. They become desensitized. Just like in the media. In the media before, they would never show you a dead body, right or wrong? Never. It was completely banned. They kept showing you things, blood, then after blood, limbs, then after limbs, people being blown up. And now it becomes normal We sit at the TV set and we look and we're not moved, right? We are not moved. They call it desensitization, right? They break that kind of emotion within your heart, within your mind, within your intellect, that you do not respond in a manner that would actually require you to respond in that particular manner. We become numb towards these kind of things that we think it's normal now. It's normal to see people blown apart. It's normal to see building being destructed. It's normal to see youngsters sleeping on the floor without mom and dad. You know, without food, without water, without anything, without hygiene. And then we can see it in ourselves, or it becomes so normal that after seeing that scene, to actually go to a 5-star restaurant and eat as if I have not seen anything. Right? This is modern colonization. They don't want to spend a budget on arms anymore. They'd rather control you and control me through media outlets, social media platforms. That is the new tactics of war. That's how people are being controlled these days, you know? Globalization at its best, at its best. We have bloggers for good or for bad. You know, this so-called Facebook, right? Is it a sword with two edges or not? It is, right? You can use it for your own advantages. You can promote your faith, promote your aqidah, promote your Islam, promote Ahl al-Bayt, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim ajma'in, in the most eloquent way. Promote yourself through some sort of, for example, experiences that you have, skills that you have, for example, where you can benefit others, right? Rather, what we see in some of our communities, unfortunately, and this is absolutely mind-boggling, wallahi al-azim. A girl who's been in hijab for 20 years, alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Her parents are amazed that she stuck to her hijab. All of a sudden, overnight, because there was something brewing. It didn't happen overnight, by the way. It did not happen overnight. There is something brewing in her mind. But her parents never picked up on these points, on these things that are happening, on the trouble spots. Remember I said, look out for trouble spots. They were not looking for trouble spots. All of a sudden, she takes her hijab off. Okay, we respect your decision. You came at a decision now that maybe you were forced by your parents to put your scarf. Now you arrive at a decision, you don't want it anymore. But look where the audacity takes her. Okay, look where the audacity takes her. She puts a special post on social media, on Instagram or on Facebook. What is the post? She's in a photo without hijab, with a caption under the photo. Don't judge me. What? What? Don't judge me? Why are you putting your photo on a public social media platform if you don't want anyone to talk to you or judge you? Don't judge me. It's not by hijab. Iman is, here we go, to the old broken album. You know, Iman is in the heart. But you know, the Prophet said Iman in the heart, true. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم الإيمان ما وقر في القلب. But he didn't stop. Look what he said. وصدقه العمل. Iman is what is fixed in the heart but corroborated by action. Subhanallah. Strengthened, corroborated, backed by action. So if I want to be a mu'min, I need to act like a mu'min. If I am a Muslim, I need to act like a Muslim. If I am someone that holds certain morality and principles, I need to act within the parameters of these values and principles. Otherwise, I'm kidding no one but myself. You know, I'm not kidding anyone. At the end of the day, you took your hijab, you put your abaya, you took your abaya, I'm not going into your grave. Right? I'm not the one. And if you're complaining about heat, come and see me. I'm wearing 3 layers. Huh? Oh, this amama is 3 kilos. 3 kgs. You know? So if it's going to be by comparison, You know, I probably have more clothes than anyone else, right? But it's a matter of faith. It's how you look at yourself. It's how you want to present yourself, right? It's how you want to present yourself. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So let us open up to our youth. Let them discuss what they want. Instead of leading them by the nose and impose a set and dry plan of activities to them, where they don't feel the affinity and the association with such programs. Yeah, for example, we developed certain programs in Australia. One of them is a end of year camp. Inshallah, you have something like this. I heard that you have something like this. You know the competition on these camps, because why? Because it entertains the religious and the mundane. So there are sporting activities for boys and girls, and there are religious activities for boys and girls, right? So they register a year before to attend these camps because places are limited. But they are so much in tune with it. Why? Because we sat with these youth and we asked them, what is it that you want? What makes you happy if you go on a camp that is titled an Islamic camp or an Islamic summer camp? So they brainstormed. Do you know the idea of brainstorming? They do it at the best of hospitals, at the best of companies. They bring the top CEOs and the managers. They sit in a boardroom for about 2 hours or 3, and the CEO says, yeah, okay, today we're going to brainstorm. We're going to get every idea out on the table, right? Isn't that what brainstorming is? And you should see the ideas that come out from these youngsters in terms of their intelligence and awareness of what things need to be done and how they need to be carried out. That gives them a number of things. Number one, it makes them feel proud about their faith. Number two, it gives them self-confidence, right? Number three, it gives them a sense of belonging. Now they know that their identity as Muslims is being catered for and it is being respected. Respected, not rejected, you know? There is a place that they can go to where they feel at home, right? They feel the pride of being in this particular place or this particular organization. Number six, win acceptance for community programs. Invite their participation instead of imposing, again, a cut and dry plan prepared by, you know, those who are in charge, you know, and make sure you get funders for these programs so that you don't stop such programs halfway through. No, make sure you maintain a sense of funding for these, allocated that specifically and holistically for these kind of programs. They don't go elsewhere. They don't go on food. You know, I work with a community. I work in a community. When you go into their mosques, they have 5 boxes. One box, they call it niyaz. You know what niyaz mean? Food. Food. Next box, imam fund. Third box, sadaqat. Fourth box, zakat. Fifth box, maintenance for the mosque. What is the first box that get filled up? Who knows? The food. Because we will not come to a place to listen to Imam Hussein without food. Ajib. Mosque activities, Imam's fund, you know, zakat, sadaqat, the least of our concern. But food? You tell me there is a majlis for Imam. Not only that, not only we made niyaz part and parcel of our programs, not only that, no, we started making sufras. Sufrat al-Imam al-Sadiq, Sufrat al-Imam al-Rida, Sufra for this Imam, Sufra for that Imam. You know, in order to kid ourselves into thinking that this is a brilliant act, it's such a generous act that you need to do it day in, day out, is that we started saying, you know what? Rasulullah recommended that act. How did Rasulullah recommend that act? When Hamza was killed, people of Medina offered food on behalf of the family of Hamza. Why? Because they were busy mourning. Fine, I'm not against the concept. Beautiful concept. That concept applies where? It applies when there is a bereaved family that they don't have time to give food for their own family members because they are bereaving for their own relatives. Yes, the neighbors would come. They will bring them something, a dish here and a dish there. But who among us today, at least in the affluent societies of today, right? Such as, for example, the West or the Gulf, the GCC country, who needs a meal after a majlis? Imagine if this money was redirected in activities to support our youth. How much can we get out of it, right? How much can we get out of it? I'm not saying abandon the activity. I'm saying limit it and invest in something of greater importance, which is the aqeedah of our children. The aqeedah of our children. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The last point I'm going to speak about today, which is point 7, is that we need to try and use what we call peer educators to gain access into smaller groups otherwise not accessible. What is peer educators? Those who are influencers in society, who are known to be role models. People look up to them, right? But they are part of our community. Right? And people like them. They have an appeal to them. They have what we call a charisma, right? They have a charisma. So people would want to be in their presence. People would want, for example, to take a selfie with them, right? Which is not bad if it is for a good cause, right? These kind of peer educators that people look up to them and people like to be in their company, regardless whether they are males or females, by the way. Of course, males with males and females with females, right? Or if it is a public forum where there are lady speakers and men speakers on a joint panel, for example, let these people who are peer educators access the smaller groups who often don't come out and speak because they look up to them, they trust them, right? And if you allow these peer educators to become more active within our communities, become more, give them more of a podium, more of an exposure in our communities, even if we have to pay them, to come. Just like, for example, if you have a shop and you know there is a good blogger, like, for example, I don't want to promote someone, but this guy, he makes me laugh sometimes because his approach is so adorable. This guy called Wa'il here, he's a Kuwaiti. He does, I don't know, for food. Wa'il his name? Oh, Lu'ay. He does food promotions for certain restaurants in Kuwait. So he has a charisma. This guy get paid. I don't know if this guy in particular gets paid, but I'm telling, and by the way, I'm not getting cut from mentioning his name. Oh, Allah, I don't know the guy. I've never met him in my life, so don't think I'm promoting him from the minbar and I'm getting a cut. I don't want his cut. But you know what? Do I love to meet him? Yeah, I'd love to meet him. I love to meet him and sit and probe into his mind and see how did he approach that particular way that he became so famous, and then, you know what? Turn this into a blogger for religion. A blogger for certain centers, a blogger for Quran, right? A blogger for certain workshops, a blogger of how to entertain our youth to come into this is what we need to invest in. And I always say this in my Arabic programs. There is a statement, I say it always. من يحمل هم الرسالة يبدع في الفكرة. Right? The one who has the concern for his faith, he will become creative in the way he delivers it. But احنا عندنا هم الرسالة. Do we really carry that ham, that concern, that earnest for our faith and religion to promote it, at least among ourselves? Do we have that ham? Do we have that concern so that we become creative in the way we present it to our community and to others? That's the key point. We need to invest in that particular issue so that we can become geniuses at the way we invite people to Islam. ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة. Oh Muhammad, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet, call to your Lord's way, to your God's way. With what? With wisdom. Wisdom means what? Every act that appeals to a human being from a perspective that this human being finds himself attracted to that particular issue. That's wisdom. That's wisdom. Wisdom is not mixing issues together, even if they belong to the same group. Do you know what that means? I'll tell you what it means. Tomatoes, are they vegetables or fruits? They're fruits, right? Do you put them in a fruit salad? No, because it's not wine. It's not wine, right? But they are from the same group. This is wisdom, to put the right things in the right place, to put the right person in the right position, right? In order that you have an appeal on people to come and learn from you and accept you as a person that can really give them that insight into themselves and into their relationship with their Creator and others, right? Not only with their creators. We have a hadith by the Prophet ﷺ in which he says, Mudaratun nas nisfuddin, to be able to know how to become articulate. You know articulation? How to be articulate in the way you speak amounts to 1/2 religion. So imagine this, imagine. Half is satisfied, half of your religion is completed if you do what? Get married, right? The other half gets completed how? If you know how to talk to her. Well, mudaratun nas. Rasulullah, mudaratun nas says nusfuddin. Right? So you marry her, you complete your half of your religion, and she marries you. She also completes half of her religion. Then the other half is completed on communication. So this particular family block, this particular unit, which is the main, most important main point for the survival of the human race, is the family unit, does not get disintegrated and broken, right? How do we keep these families together? Through communication, articulation, and the way we appeal to one another, right? And in the way we and take this as a yardstick that you measure every other relationship with, whether it's your friends, whether it's your parents, whether it's the public, whether it's at work. The minute you know how to become articulate, you would fit in any position you find yourself in, right? Because idfa billati hiya ahsan. Call to your Lord's way with what is best. فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ, right? You can't. You will win the other party when they find you in the... Look at them, the mindset. If you want to know how you have concern for your faith and you become creative in the way you present it, look at that brain and mindset of a boy. The riwayat says, لم يبلغ الحلم, in one riwayat, Al-Qassim ibn al-Hasan, salawatullah wa salam alayhi. Al-Qassim ibn al-Hasan, the son of Imam Hassan. Imam Hussein is speaking to his nephew. He says to him, O Qasim, كيف ترى الموت? How do you see death? Achieve. Allah al-Azim. An uncle speaking to his nephew about death. Because we should speak about these issues as well. In as much as we speak about life, which is your existence, death is also what? Is the extension of your existence. Right? Death is the extension for your existence, because death does not mean the annihilation of life. It means ending one phase, beginning a next phase. That's what death is all about. That's what death is all about. Look at the response that Al-Qassim gives to his uncle. He said, Fika ya amma, in your cause? In your cause? When he says in your cause, what is he saying? We know that Imam Hussein is Islam incarnate, right or wrong? Right or wrong? He's the epitome of Islam. He is the other coin, the other side of the coin, right? He is the Islam personified, right? So if you would ask, Where is Islam at the time of Imam Hussein? How do I see it? You say, look at Imam Hussein. He's Islam incarnate. So Al-Qassim says, in your cause, Wallah ya amma ahla min al-asal. Wallah, dying in your cause for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sweeter to me than honey. That's why Al-Qassim, when he comes to his uncle on the day of Ashura, and his uncle rejects his request, he pleads with his uncle. The riwayah says, as you will see, he goes down to his feet and he starts kissing the feet of Imam Hussein, asking him to please give him permission to go and fight. Right? And Musibat, Musibat al-Imam al-Hussein wal-Qasim did not start on the day of Ashura. It started at the death of Imam al-Hasan, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. When Imam Hussein came to bid farewell to his brother Imam al-Hasan, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, and he saw him in so much pain, because of the poison that was put in his food, so much so that his liver was cut into pieces, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, so much so that he tells his brother Imam al-Hussein, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, when he came to visit him, give me that basin, a tisht, give me that basin, this plate, whatever. He says, why do you want a plate, oh my brother? He said, I want to spit my liver out from the poison. And then Imam began to cry, Imam al-Hussein, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, at the plight of his brother. And then the Imam says, don't cry. La yawm ka yawmika ya Aba Abdullah. La yawm. There's no day like your day, O Abu Abdullah. Yazdalifu ilayka 30,000. 30,000 march on you, O Hussein, claiming they are from the nation of Rasulullah. Each and every one of them has only one intention, and that intention is to kill you. 30,000. 30,000, not one or two. And then all of a sudden Zainab comes to also bid her brother farewell. So Imam Hassan says to Imam Hussein, hide. Nahi anni hada tasht. Hide the base, so my sister doesn't see it. Doesn't see her brother spitting out his liver in that basin, Then what was the condition of Sayyidah Zahra at that moment? Knowing that one of her son is going to be buried next to her and one son is away from her. One in Medina and one in Iraq, right? And her daughters are going to be taken as prisoners of war, sabaya, paraded from one town to another. Subhanallah. And after all the companions of Imam Hussein, salamullah alayh, offered themselves in shahada, and after the death of Ali al-Akbar, Al-Qassim came to his uncle Hussein. He said, Ya Amma, al-Atash, adrikni bi sharbati ma. Give me a sip of water. The Imam granted him patience and said, oh my nephew, it bereaves your uncle that you ask him for water and he cannot satisfy you. Then Al-Qassim came out, a child who has not even reached the age of accountability, when he heard the words of his uncle saying in the loudest of voices on the plains of Karbala, هل من ذاب يذب عن حرم رسول الله، هل من موحد يخاف الله فينا، هل من معين يرجو ما عند الله في إعانتنا، وما من أحد يغيثه وينصره. Imam Hussein looked at his nephew with his armor, with the sword dragging on the floor, the sword of his father Imam al-Hasan. He hugged his nephew and began to cry until the riwayah says they both fell unconscious to the ground. Then Al-Qassim asked his uncle to go and fight. He said, "Oh, my nephew, you are the last remaining member of my brother's family to me, and I want you to remain the last one, and that I would die before you." Imam Hussein refused to give him permission. Al-Qassim kneeled down to the legs of Imam Hussein and began to kiss them and saying to him, "Ya Amma, لا طاقة لي على البقاء وأرى بني عمومتي وإخوتي مجزرين كالأضاحي وأراك وحيدا فريدا." فلم يزل يستأذن عمه حتى أذن له فخرج ودموعه تسيل على خديه. Then finally Imam Hussein gave permission to Al-Qassim. Al-Qassim bid his uncle farewell and began to repeat the following words: إن تنكروني إن تنكروني فأنا نجل الحسن صبط النبي المصطفى والمؤتمن هذا حسين كالأسير المرتهن بين أناس لاصقوا صوب المزون. Hamid ibn Muslim says, a boy appeared on the plains of Karbala. He looked like the moon. He began to fight the enemy line so intensely until Hamid ibn Muslim said, I was standing in the camp of Umar ibn Sa'd and I'm looking at this young man wearing an izar and a shirt, wearing a lower garment and an upper garment, and I can recall that one of the straps on his left sandals became undone. He kneeled down to fix it, unwary of all the thousands of men that were surrounding him. Then Amr ibn Sa'd al-Azdi said, Wallahi la ashuddanna alayh. By God, I shall go and attack him. And I said to him, Hamid ibn Muslim is saying to this Azdi, why would you do that? By God, if he was to hit me personally, I would not respond to him. Don't you see your army has already surrounded him and they are attacking him from every side? He said, by God, I shall do so, and I want to finish him so that I bereave his uncle over him. So he went to Al-Qassim. يعز عليكم يا مؤمنين أجركم الله. He came to Al-Qassim. While Al-Qassim trying to fight and defend himself, he struck him with a sword. It landed on his head. The young boy fell to his face to the ground مناديا يا عماه أدركني. فجاءه الحسين كالصقر المنقض. Imam Hussein came towards his nephew like an attacking eagle in order to separate the people from him. Then the Imam hit Al-Azdi, the one who killed Al-Qassim, but he protected himself by raising his hand. But Imam severed the hand of Al-Azdi. The riwayah says he cried out at Al-Azdi in such a way, in such agony, that the entire camp could hear him. Then he left Al-Qassim and moved away. Then the people of Kufa from the army of Umar ibn Sa'd came to rescue Al-Azdi, while Al-Hussein is trying to rescue his nephew Al-Qassim. يعز عليكم يا مؤمنين. The horses hit Al-Qassim and they began to trample him with their hooves. By the time the dust settled, Al-Hussein is standing on top of Al-Qassim, and Al-Qassim is kicking with his legs the floor where he was lying down. فقال الإمام يعز على عمك أن تدعوه فلا يجيبك، أو يجيبك فلا يعينك، أو يعينك فلا يغني عنك. It bereaves your uncle that you call him to rescue you, but he can't respond, or he responds but he can't help you, or he helps you but he can't prevent death from you. And then the Imam began to read the following dua: بعدا لقوم قتلوا ومن خصمهم يوم القيامة جدك وأبوك. Woe unto people whom on the day of judgment the arbitrator between you and them will be none other than your grandfather Rasulullah and your father Hassan. It is a day, oh my nephew, where the helpers are little. There are no companions. Listen to what Hamid ibn Muslim says. Then I saw Hussein carry Al-Qassim on his chest. But because Imam Hussein was so bereaved, he couldn't hold Al-Qassim so much. He said, I saw the legs of Al-Qassim being dragged on the floor and the ground of Karbala. ورجلي الغلام يخطان في الأرض خطا وقد وضع الحسين صدره على صدره. Then I said, what is Hussein going to do with Al-Qassim? فجاء به حتى ألقاه بين الشهداء. He came and he placed him among the shuhada. But look at this scene, brothers and sisters. On one side there was Ali al-Akbar, on the other side Al-Qassim. Then Imam Hussein laid between them. He placed one hand on Al-Akbar and the other hand on Al-Qassim. Allahumma innaka ta'lam, and began to pray. Allahumma innaka ta'lam annahum da'awna liyansuruna fakhadhaluna wa a'anu alayna a'da'ana. Allahumma ahsihim adada waqtulhum badada wa la tughadir minhum ahada. Now the scene is more intense. His mother hears of his martyrdom. Allahu Akbar. Ramla can't believe now Al-Qassim is gone. When they came to see Al-Qassim, the riwayah says one of them threw herself on his head, the other on her leg, the other on his chest, and began to cry, and their voices were raised high. Then Ramla came and began to say, Wa walada, wa qasima, rahim Allah man qal, wa qasima, wa walada. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. 5 times from the bottom of your hearts, brothers and sisters, join me please in these holy nights. These are the nights of dua, these are the nights of hajat, these are the nights of request. These are the nights when we appeal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the presence and the virtue and the stature of such family members of the Prophet, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his infinite wisdom, with his mercy, with his generosity, that he would answer our prayers. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا. The last one from the bottom of your heart. أمن يجيب ويكشف السوء بحق محمد وآل محمد وبحرمة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.